Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a lovely day so far. In today's video, as you can see from the title down below, I am talking you through my whole bronzer collection. Now, bronzer is probably one of my biggest selections. I feel like, especially over the last couple of years, I have been through a whole journey with finding what I like in a bronzer, textures and colours and finishes and all things like that. I feel like my preferences have changed massively over the last couple of years whilst I've been exploring different products and different formulas and things like that. So I'm going to talk you through every product that I have in my bronzer drawer. In these drawers I have all of my products separated out into different little tubs. I have one tub for powder bronzers and one tub for what I'm going to be calling others. So in this others tub, it's mainly cream bronzers, but there is also liquid bronzers, cream contour and bronzer sticks, things like that. And then in the other little tub we have all of the powder bronzers, and in this section we have lots of different finishes. So we've got matte bronzers, shimmers, glowy finishes, all things like that. And then at the back we have a few that are just too big to fit into the other little sections. So these are just powder bronzers, but they just don't fit in the pots. So I have them all here. I've also got myself a very big cup of tea because this is probably going to be quite a long video. They usually are. So I will start with the others category because this is where I have really found some of my firm favourites over the last couple of years. So the first ever cream bronzer product I bought was this one from L'Oreal. This is the L'Oreal Infallible Sculpt Contour Palette. Now you can't get this anymore. You can see how well loved this is. I don't use this anymore because I have others that I prefer, but this is a really beautiful, cool tone. It is more of a contour product on my skin tone anyway, but you can't get this anymore. It used to be available on Superdrug, then the only place I could find it was Amazon, and now the last time I looked for this I couldn't find it at all. Thankfully I have other products that have sort of replaced this. I mean, I should probably get rid of this because I've definitely had this for years. Yeah, I'm gonna get rid of that. But it was a really good bronzer when contour product, sorry, when I was first sort of getting into makeup and deciding what I liked. I knew that I would like a creamier bronzer product, but there weren't that many on the market when I started learning about makeup and learning about my preferences and things like that. So this was a really good one to like tide me over until now, when obviously there's loads of options, but it was a really good one. You just can't get it anymore. I will quickly just mention this one because it's the one that's in my project pan. I'm talking about it all the time at the minute. This is the Maybelline Face Studio Contour Stick. It is a contour shade on one side and then a highlighter on the other, but I'd never use the highlighter shade. I've literally just cut that off with a Stanley knife so that I can get to the contour shade easier. Again, I don't know if this is one that they make anymore. I personally wouldn't repurchase it. It's a very small amount of product for the price. I mean, Maybelline is like a good drugstore brand. It's not one of the cheap ones. It is one of the more expensive drugstore brands, but I feel like I have cream contour products that I prefer over this one, and ultimately I'm wasting 50% of the product because I don't like the highlighter halves of these. The same with the L'Oreal one. I never use the highlighter portion of that palette. They just don't work for me fantastically well. I don't like them. I just don't like them. I like the contour bits, but I don't like the highlighter bits. So I am still using this one. I don't have a lot left of it. This is in my project pan. I will hopefully be done with it soon. Another sort of cream contour stick is this Colour and Sculpt stick from SheGlam. I couldn't tell you what I think of this. It has been forever since I've used this, but that's quite a nice warm shade actually. I won't buy from SheGlam anymore. I won't buy from like Shein and places like that anymore, the sort of cheapy Chinese companies. I'm not a fan of all of that, like, ethically, so I won't repurchase this, but I mean, now that I've swatched that, I will probably use it. And then the last stick product is the Collection Gorgeous Glow Stick, the contour one. This is a beautiful contour stick. That is all I have left. I have to use a brush now and like dig out the last little bit of product in there because that won't twist up anymore. But if you are fair like me, then this is a really good contour shade. It is quite cool toned, but I find that if I use this and then a bronzer sort of a little bit higher up, I do like the combination of that. However, they've only got one shade, which is awful in 2022 that we have a universal contour shade, because this would not work universally. It just wouldn't. So I like it for my skin tone. Would it work on somebody of really deep, rich skin tone? Absolutely not. So then I have one liquid bronzer. This is the Revolution Super Dewy Liquid Bronze in the shade Fair to Light. They had a good shade range of these. You could get, I think there was maybe 4 or 5. This Fair to Light one works really well for me. All year round, I think that this would work well for me. It is more of a bronzier tone rather than like a contour, but it blends out really beautifully. I have a whole testing video just on this. I'm fairly certain I did one. I'm doubting myself now. I think I did one. I'll link it up here if I did. But yeah, really cheap. Revolution products are really nice. I don't think off the top of my head I have a Revolution products that I don't really enjoy. They're really good. The pigment's really nice. It blends out really easily. It gives that beautiful warm bronze rather than like any sort of cool contour. But really like it, especially at this time of year. It's really warming and bronzy. In contrast to this one, which is the Revolution Cream Bronzer, which I also am fairly certain I tested on my channel. This is the Ultra Cream Bronzer in Light. I have used this a fair few times since I first tested it. It is a lot more cool toned than the Super Dewy. These would probably work really nicely together actually, with this being more of like a contour shade, just really precise. It is so pigmented. If you pick this up, just be warned that you need the tiniest little bit. It's really intensely pigmented. Like, I just tapped my hand in there once, my finger, sorry, and that is going all over. It is really pigmented, but as you can see, it is slightly more grey rather than like a really nice warm flush of colour. And then these two probably would fight it out for like top spot for like cream bronzers. So we've got the e.l.f. Putty Bronzer. I will show you this to show you how well loved that is. I am so nearly out of this and I would absolutely repurchase it. This is in the shade Tan Lines. This works really well as like a bronzer and contour. It's just that perfect amount of coolness and warmness to be used for both. It really is the easiest product to use. It's what I'm wearing today. It is really nice and light and warm, but this has a really great shade range. I'm fairly certain they have like 8 shades and they go really deep as well, so I really highly recommend these, as well as the putty blushes. You know how much I love those as well. And the other one is the XX Revolution Cream Bronzer. This is in the shade Inspire, and this is more of just a bronzer rather than that sort of multitasking bronze and contour. This works really nicely at this time of year when you want that really warm, tanned looking bronzy skin. This has 3 shades in the range. I can't remember off the top of my head what the other ones are like. This is very fair. If you were any deeper than me, any more tanned than me, then I would say go for the next colour up. This is in the shade Inspire, did I say? When I first tried it, I hated it because I was using more of a typical powder bronzer brush. You do need a brush to really get that product on there. I like to use the Expert Face Brush from Real Techniques. It's just The bristles are shorter and it's denser. It works really well with cream products. These do work really well with powder products as well, but I keep these specifically just for cream. And this brush made me like this bronzer, because when I first tried it, I hated it. I did a whole blog post at the start of the year with all of the products that I hated, and this was one of them. I really didn't like it because I just didn't get on with it. It wasn't blending right with the type of brush that I was using. The colour wasn't there. All of this stuff, but I was just using the wrong brush. You need a brush specifically for cream bronzer products, and this one's a great one. So that is all of the cream products. I will now move on to the powder ones. So I'll start with the ones that were at the back, the larger ones, because honestly all of these could be interchanged. I could have just one of these. I have 3, but they are all very similar. They're all very similar in tone. Obviously the packaging is also very similar. The Revolution one in the middle is slightly cooler, and the other two, this is the MUA Bronzed Perfection Matte, and this one at this end is the Essence Matte Bronzing Powder in 01 Natural. All of these I would be happy with just one. If I was to pick one, I would probably pick the MUA one because the colour just works slightly better for me. I found that the Essence one was more difficult to use in that it went a little bit patchy, and the scent of this one is awful. I hate scent in any products, but especially like bronzers. Like, why do you need a scent in it? I don't like scent in anything. It really irritates my eyes, really irritates my skin. I'm just not a fan. So I would happily live without this one, but I have it, so I'm going to use it. I'm going to try and use it up. And then these two, they are different enough for me to have both still. The Revolution one is more of a contour, it is a little bit cooler, and the MUA one is more of a bronzery warm shade. The MUA bronzer is in the shade Sunset Tan. I've had multiple of these because they're really cheap. They're really good. They're really easy to apply. They don't go sort of patchy. They're just that right amount of pigment where you don't need to layer up 7 million layers, and you also don't go overboard really easily, if that makes sense. And then the other product that we had at the back there is the e.l.f. Contour Palette. This is the light medium shade. I always forget that I have this because it's always at the back, but this is a really good selection of bronzer and contour, and then these two are highlight shades. I tend to leave those, I don't really use those, but these two do work really nicely. This is a little bit deep for me. I would have to use a very light hand and just keep it really far back and use it sparingly, whereas I can go a little bit crazy with this lighter one in this bottom corner. It's nice having the option. If you think that you would use the highlighter shades as well, then this is definitely worth it. This is the only way I think to get an e.l.f. powder bronzer. I'm not sure, they've maybe brought some out since I bought these, I can't remember, but it is nice. Again, glad I have it in my collection. I just don't reach for it a crazy amount. So when I very first started my channel nearly 2 years, well, over 2 years ago now, it was during lockdown, so it was quite a while ago, I did a whole Revolution order and I ordered this, and it has been a firm favourite since then. But I have recently found other products that I prefer and other tones, because this is the Revolution Pro Sculpting Bronzer in the shade Cacao. You can see how dark and deep and intense that colour is. For someone of my skin tone, I don't know why I bought this. Like this, if I saw this in a shop, I would never have picked up that shade. It is beautiful. Obviously it's got a huge pan in the middle. I do really enjoy it. This is now in my project pan, but this is such an intense bronzer shade. It is so much darker than my skin tone. It's so pigmented. It blends out really nicely. I absolutely cannot fault the formula at all. I would absolutely pick up another one of these in a lighter shade, but that shade is just too cool toned and too dark for my skin. I have to use the tiniest amount. It's going to take me forever to get to the bottom of that pan. It's so intensely pigmented. I like that this has a mirror in it. I do often take this places when I need to like touch up the rest of my face, but the colour is just not what I would go for now, and I don't know why I picked up such a dark colour. Sticking on the Revolution theme, this is the bronzer Reloaded in Long Weekend, and I don't know how well you're going to be able to see, but this is shimmery. It's a really soft shimmer. It's a beautiful warm tone. I add this over the top of like cream contours that are too cool. I use this to really quickly and easily warm up the skin and also add that really nice amount of glow. It's not chunky, glittery, it just warms up. So that's the Revolution Pro Cacao Powder, and this is the Revolution Long Weekend. So you can see the difference in those and why I prefer the Long Weekend one. It's a really soft amount of glow. Can you see there? It's really subtle, but it just makes your skin glow. It just makes you look so healthy. I really enjoy this, especially at this time of year when I want to have that warm colour on my skin as well as having that really nice amount of shimmer. Another one that has a really nice amount of shimmer is the Body Collection Glow Bronzing Powder. I only tested this recently. I have a little bit of this on today as well, and it looks matte in the pan, but when you swatch it, it has a little bit of like a reflect to it. This, however, is a bit sort of cooler and also very much lighter than the Revolution one. I don't even know if you can see it, it's just there. It is very similar to my skin tone. This Body Collection one is in the shade light medium. If I were to buy this again, and I would, this was so affordable. I think it was like £2.50 or £3. Really, really affordable. I think I would go for the next shade darker, which I assume would just be medium. It is really nice. It blends out really nicely. The packaging is really pretty, which I know isn't important at all, but I enjoy it. The amount of shimmer in it is really nice. It adds the same sort of similar glow than the like Revolution Long Weekend. It's just really, really affordable, really great. I just would go for the slightly deeper shade for my own skin tone. Like that blends in obviously with like the skin tone on my hands, but it also blends in very, very easily with if I have any sort of slightly deeper foundation on. I just completely lose that bronzer. For a bronzer and contour powder hybrid, I really like this one. This is the Maybelline City Bronzer in the shade Medium Cool. Now I don't know, I can't remember off the top of my head if they have slightly warmer shades, but this is a light contour bronzer shade for my skin tone, and I didn't realise when I first bought this, but it is very, very slightly shimmery. Again, not in like a chunky, glittery way, but it adds slightly less than that Revolution Long Weekend, less shimmer than that one, but it's not completely matte. It does have a slightly reflective finish to it, and it is more close to my skin tone than the Revolution one. But I really enjoy this. It's not too pigmented. You can really layer it up. You can be really subtle with it and soft. You can absolutely just go crazy and sort of put it all over, as I'm sure you can imagine. I often do. And it just layers up really nicely and adds that nice definition, that nice warmth, but it still looks very, very natural. And then I have two that aren't drugstore products, so I'm just going to quickly skip over these. Well, I don't know. Would you consider Physicians Formula a drugstore brand? I suppose you would, wouldn't you? It's not like an expensive brand, but it's more expensive. It's Physicians Formula, the Butter Bronzer. It's a classic. I have only had this like 6 months, and I have already created a huge dent in it, but I know that this is going to last me forever because Everybody has a butter bronzer in their project pan. Everybody does. The scent. I hate the scent. Everybody goes on about how nice the scent is. I really dislike it. It just reminds me of, I don't know, summer holidays, but not in a good way. I don't know. There's something that I really dislike about it. Like, it's really sweet. It's a really sweet sun cream scent, and I really dislike it. But the shade is beautiful. I use this often because the shade is just beautiful. This is softer than a lot of the bronzers that I have. Like, it does just feel like butter. It's so soft. It almost has like a velvety finish to it. It's this one at the top here, so it is just a true bronzer shade. There is no contouring with this one. It's just so warm and so soft. It blends out so easily. It adds the most subtle, beautiful colour to your skin. Everybody goes on about this one for good reason. It's really, really nice. I just wish it didn't have that scent. And then the other one that I have that isn't drugstore but is also still quite affordable, like in the drugstore prices that they have at the minute, like it's just craziness. This is the Kiko Lost in Amalfi Baked Bronzer in the shade 01. This is another one that has a beautiful subtle shimmer to it. It's so soft. This is probably one of my favourites. I do have to force myself to not use this in every single video because you would definitely get bored of it. This has a scent to it and it does bother me. The scent in here, it definitely bothers me, the same as the others. It's this one down here, the Lost in Amalfi Kiko one. So it's warmer. It almost has more of a pinkier undertone rather than orange, which I know is what bronzers are for, that like tan colour, but on my skin tone that shade just looks so natural. The shimmer in it is a beautiful soft shimmer. This one is also scented. It almost smells like teenage boys, but like the spray that they use, like it's reminding me of secondary school, not in a good way. Yeah, don't like that scent. Don't like any scent, but don't like that scent. I'd rather have the butter bronzer scent. But the shade of that one on fair skin, they had a good shade range. They regularly bring out different collections and things like that. They always have a really good shade range, but this one on fair skin is a beautiful warm bronzer and I am a huge fan. And then lastly, this is the newest addition to my collection. This is the L'Oreal Paris 24-Hour Fresh Wear Matte Bronzer. This is the one that they brought out recently. It is beautiful. It's really, really nice. If you're on the fence about it and you are my sort of skin tone, then just know that it is a warm bronzery shade. It also says matte bronzer, but this definitely has some shimmer in it that you can see in the pan. It doesn't necessarily transfer to the face. I wouldn't describe this, however, as a matte bronzer. Personally, I have found that this adds a soft amount of colour. It's that one there at the bottom. It's definitely a neutral sort of bronzery shade. It could absolutely be used for bronzer and contour. I do use it for both. It's very, very pigmented. You need the tiniest amount, like approach with caution. You only need a really small amount. It says that you can use it for a natural bronzer look or under the cheeks to contour. I would agree with that. It definitely adds a shadowy look under cheekbones, but I honestly just use this all over my face. I really like how it blends out. I like how other products blend into it. It looks airbrushed on the skin. If you have tried the foundation powder, the one that's in the same compact as this one, it is a similar finish to that, in that it is almost like a velvety smooth finish. It's really interesting. It's really, really beautiful. I think if I were to repurchase any of these. You know, that old problem that we are always facing as people. My whole makeup collection has been lost and I need to replace everything. I would probably go for the e.l.f. Putty bronzer in Tan Lines and the L'Oreal bronzer, because for the price these are fantastic. I don't feel as though I have any sort of gaps in my collection now. I was definitely on the hunt for a more warm bronzer, but now that I have the L'Oreal one, I feel like I'm done. I feel like I have everything that I could need and probably more, because now that I've swatched these on my arm, I definitely feel like some of these are similar. But anyway, I have them all now. I don't feel like I need to go out and buy any bronzer. Like, I feel like I have a really good selection here for various different looks, various different seasons as well. Like, if I were to get more tanned in summer, which it's not looking likely, is it? But if I were to get any more tanned, then I you know, I have options for that. I'm also set for the next 5 years of being this pale. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more like deep dives into my collection, I have a whole playlist for these makeup collection tours, so if you want to see that, then you can find the link to that in the description box down below. If you like these videos, then please give it a big thumbs up. If you like me, then please subscribe. But until next time, thank you so much for watching. Bye!